On this date, I was patrolling around the San Angelo Lodge area, which is known to have a lot of theft and drug abuse and things like that going on. Whenever I drove through there, the driver of this vehicle saw me and never broke eye contact. He just stared at me the entire time. Eventually, I turned around and was able to catch up to him, and he kind of just drove northbound from that direction, which was the opposite direction where he was originally going. I got with dispatch and was able to run the license plate and found out that registration was out on this vehicle. This is on the access road, I believe it's Castro, headed eastbound. We're headed towards Central in that neck of the woods. So he went just straight northbound from San Angelo Lodge and then headed eastbound. And I'm waiting on the return from dispatch because our computers are a little slower than dispatch is. You can see he's trying to get onto the loop and get out of the area. And here I turn the lights on and he starts pulling over. Everything seems normal, nothing out of character except for the way he was driving to get away from the area. Just a straight route, opposite from where he was going. You can see his taillights shut off, so that lets me know that he's not in gear. And then you can see the brake lights come on and he takes off. Obviously he's got the upper hand on me here, and I'm having to get back in the car and go. That's a V8 Dodge Durango versus a V6 Dodge Ram. Now, I've already lost sight of him here, and you can see when I turn the corner there's going to be a lot of dust, and it's hard to even see him there. He's kicking up all kinds of dust just at how fast he's going, so I'm having to do the best I can with what I have to work with.
How fast would you say you were going initially when the guy took off and you took off after him?
Right here, I'm moving probably in the mid-50s. I don't want to get any more than that inside the residential neighborhoods. If we're on a cut-through, you know, there's a little more room. But you can see, I mean, we're covering a lot of ground here. The video's not so good, but at this point I can see him. I can still see him, and I see that he's turning. Head up there. And at this point, you can barely make out that he turned up there. And here we go. And again, he had that head start about 2 blocks before I was able to even step on the gas, and I'm having to cover that ground. He's obviously running for some reason, whether it be drugs or warrants. Those are usually the things that they run for. And leaving the drug area, I'm assuming drugs at this point.
So, what's going through your mind whenever somebody initially takes off? What's the first thing you think of?
I'm not a big fan of car chases because of the amount of danger that everybody's placed in. You know, you see how long it's taken me up to this point to just bring up 1 block, and I'm about a block behind him now. It took me quite a bit of time just to close that gap, and I've still got the task of closing the rest of it. And he's got the bigger engine, and who knows who's going to be out on the road. There's kids always playing, riding bikes, things like that, so I've got to take all that in consideration. There's a lot of mental stress. Now see that car? This is the other thing I have to deal with. They see me chasing him, but they're not going to help me out, you know. They're just going to continue driving, so that puts me back further. I was within a car length of him, and now have to catch more ground. Now he's staying in the same area right now. You'll see later on this chase covers all the areas of Sector 3, and I think it goes into every beat of Sector 3. I believe now we're headed, I'm not sure the direction right now, I can't tell, but I'll be able to tell you here in a second.
So what's the objective in a chase like this? Are you trying to catch up to them, get in front of them, or? At
this point, that's a SUV. We don't want to pit that vehicle because it could roll and injure or kill them or injure someone nearby. You know, it's a top-heavy vehicle that has a potential for rolling over. In this situation, I'm trying to stay close enough that hopefully he'll do the right thing. You can see we're headed back now east on Castro. There's a lot of units out working at this point. It's early in the day, you know, it's 5:30. We just came on shift 45 minutes ago, and I'm waiting for them to get up here. And I remember thinking, where is everybody? Where is everybody? Because usually there's a second unit here. By this point, another unit had gotten in behind me, but due to the speeds of this chase in the residential area, he wasn't even able to keep up. So I had to tell him, no, I'll call it because I'm right on him. Because usually our second units will call and let the first unit just concentrate on keeping up with him. So right now, I've got to concentrate on where I'm at, how fast we're going, watching out for people that are around us, making sure he's not throwing anything out or deciding to shoot. Who knows? A lot of mental stress going on.
What's the feeling you have whenever you're pursuing a vehicle like this? I'm sure there's adrenaline present, but do you get like tunnel vision? Are you scared of what could potentially happen, or?
I used to get tunnel vision, but you can see right here, I make almost a complete stop, let a car go by, and then keep on going, engage in the chase. And whenever I first started my first chase, I did get tunnel vision, and I just floored it until he ended up wrecking out. This, I've had a few years under my belt at this point, and knew better. I got to drive with due care and caution. I've got to be real careful. There's serious consequences at stake here. He's made it back to where we started, and I'm sitting here thinking he's probably going to bail out. He's going to run on foot, because that's what people do. He's circling the area. This is exactly where I saw him before, and I'm thinking he's going to turn back. Well, he didn't. He continued eastbound here, and that's on Colorado and about the 1600 block, now 1500 block. All this is being relayed and transferred to other units on patrol. You can't hear it in the audio, but I'm constantly saying we're headed southbound in the alley in about the 1500 block of Colorado. And you can see how hard it is. I mean, that's dirt roads, and all I can see is his brake lights up there as he's going. So, because he's having to slow down as well. But rough road. We're heading south, and we're going to be coming up on Live Oak here pretty soon.
What's the scariest part of pursuing a vehicle?
Everybody else that's innocent being involved in this, because this involves everybody. This places everybody in danger. And if it was busier, if he had gone down Sherwood Way or a busier street like that, we probably wouldn't have been able to stay on him, but he's taking the back roads, and you can see there's not a whole lot of traffic. He went across Beauregard, but he got off Beauregard quick. Where there's traffic, it's not good for him, but I mean, just like that person, he could have lost it and ended up hitting him head on there. And, that's why we have our sergeants to be able to guide us on things like this, to whether or not to. You can see right there, he was trying to turn, and at the time I didn't know if he was trying to get me to wreck into him. We have sergeants that will guide us and help us make good decisions on whether or not we need to terminate the chase.
What's the feeling you have whenever you're required to terminate?
It's a love-hate thing, because you want to catch the bad guys. That's what we're out to do. You kind of get a prey drive as far as they're doing something bad, and our job is to catch them, and I want to do my job to the best that I can. I want to catch him. But you can see there comes a time where the safety of the people outweighs the catching him at that point. But on the other end of that, we let this guy go. He continues driving as fast as he wants to and ends up killing somebody. You never can tell the future, and in situations like this, we don't know if he's going to bail out or if he's having some kind of mental breakdown, or, and I knew there was another subject in the vehicle, and she looked like, the profile was of a female. Who knows if she's there willingly? What if he's taken off and she just wants out of the car? We don't know if she's kidnapped. I don't know her age. It could be a child in there, It looked like a full-grown woman, but there could be some other things going on there. So we're worried about her safety as well, and his. We want him to stop. That's what the lights and sirens means. Stop and pull over.
Now this guy seems to use his turn signals quite a bit.
Yeah. Sometimes that comes in handy. They don't realize they're doing it. It's one of those muscle memory kind of things. And I even commented in the chase that he's helping me out with his turn signals, and he continued to do it. I said, we're going to be turning, we're going to be making a left turn up here. And you can see sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. In this case, he did again. Now we're right here on Avenue N near the cemetery and approaching Jackson. So now we've covered the north end of Sector 3 by Central High School. Now we moved right through the middle of Santa Rita. And I don't know how much time has passed now, but at this point, I remember going on Avenue N thinking, how much longer are we going to be chasing, Our chases don't usually last, 10, 15 minutes, something like that. It's always less than that usually, because they want to bail out or they get away. But this guy, now on Vanderbilt by ASU, a populated area, so I'm relaying traffic conditions right here. You can see there's not much traffic there, but we're still traveling at a high rate of speed, probably 50s right here, because the road won't let him go any faster. Here on Johnson, once we get through the school area, you'll see that he really picks it up. And I remember going close to 80 miles an hour at this point whenever we turned on Johnson here. It was a scary moment, because I remember looking down and saying, we're going pretty quick. If this guy loses it, it's going to be a bad wreck. But you can see the power of that vehicle versus mine. He's flooring it and I'm flooring it, and he's pulling me. He's getting away. And so the residential area wasn't working for him, obviously, because I was able to catch up 2 blocks worth. Now, here we are. I'm more comfortable driving this vehicle because I put so many man hours behind the steering wheel versus him in this vehicle that ended up being a borrowed type situation. So he's unfamiliar with that vehicle, later we find out, and I'm completely familiar with mine. That really helps us. The traction control keeps me from sliding out on the turns where he will fishtail and lose control of the vehicle. This was my worst fear right here, turning into this residential area, because there's always people in this area. And I gave him a lot of room here. You can see I let him get about half a block in front of me because I didn't want to push him as hard, because it seemed like the closer I got to him, the faster he went. And he didn't know where he was going. It was obvious right here, because even when I was slowing down, he slowed down. He wasn't comfortable with the area. So we kept this down 40s, 50s, where it could have gone a lot faster. When we turned on this corner here is one of the scariest moments of this chase. I don't know if you'll be able to see him in this video, but we're heading back towards Johnson, and there's some kids. And I remember seeing some parents grab the kids and run into the house. It was very scary for me, being a parent as well. I understand those parents, their fear in that situation. He heads back over here to Johnson and ends up heading south towards Knickerbocker, which is also a very busy street. This is basically rush hour traffic for us, and we've all been there at those stoplights and having to wait. Well, this guy's not waiting for anything. We've got a red light. He goes right through it. Of course, I'm clearing the intersection before I go through, and we're good to go. You'll see on this straightaway he's going to pull ahead of me a little bit. Well, he tries to turn. It looked like he was trying to go to that Subway or Creekside area and wasn't able to do it. This was a scary intersection right here coming up at Sunset and Knickerbocker. We have the green light here at Parkview, which was good. Everything's going fine. And then you can see right here, there's traffic backed up. So what's his way to handle that? He goes left to center into oncoming traffic and ends up going through the intersection. It turned green at the last second, but that was a red light. You got those people that will run the yellows. This is why you don't run yellows, because you got a guy going 60, 70 miles an hour on Knickerbocker, and he just flies right into you. Here we are on Houston Hard on the access road, coming up on Sidetail area. He couldn't decide if he was going to turn right or left, and I didn't know what he was doing either. At this point, there's 2 officers behind me. I believe it was Officer Barker and it may have been Officer Hawthorne. And there was Officer Quittem was involved as well. I can't remember where he was at though. So we're all here driving this direction, and I believe Barker was calling the chase for me so I can concentrate just on him. We're going pretty quick here, but he slows down a little to get through this red light at College Hills, and I remember this was a scarier moment as well, because he just goes right through it, completely red, and you can see me dramatically slow down. And here he is, all the time in the world to get away, and he just floors it. At this point, I believe I get up to around 90 miles an hour. There's no traffic on the roadway. I know what this vehicle is capable of, and in this short distance, we were able to get up to some pretty high speeds.
Were there any wrecks caused by his blasting through traffic lights and things like that?
Amazingly, no, which is not usually the case. I mean, you see how this guy's driving. It's his own personal NASCAR track, and he's just going. At this point, we're headed back in, which is the exact opposite of I want him to get away from town. He turns back into town. And this is whenever I got the most worried and really contemplated ending the chase, whenever we pulled into the Sunset Mall parking lot. You got to imagine all these families out in the parking lot. And I had decided right here that if he goes on the inside, closest to the front doors, that I was going to terminate the traffic. So I moved to the left to force him outwards, and he does. So we take the outer route, which isn't going to be near as populated as right in front of the doors as you can imagine. And we slowed it down a lot. He's way ahead of me, and he ends up slowing down quite a bit, and we kept it under control so we didn't have to terminate this chase. As in control as we could. I was just ready for it to end by this point. I remember at one point all the rush I had ended, which helps you drive the way you need to drive, but whenever that adrenaline rush is ending, you got kind of the adrenaline dump trying to figure out why is this still happening. We're all the way on the southwest side now, and all that's left there is a loop and parking lot. Thankfully, he gets back out on the loop. This is whenever he made a split decision, and I had to make a decision as well. You can see him kind of touch that curb. We're on the access road, and all of a sudden he just takes off and goes across the loop. I decided, we've gone through all this. I know that area because I've used it before in emergencies. I knew I could make it through there, and I decided to stay with him. I wasn't going to give him that. You drive all this way, and then you drive across the median to get away. That's not going to cut it. So now we're on the loop. Plenty of time to drive as fast as he wants to, basically. And now we've hit the northeast side, the southeast side, the southwest side, and we're coming back to the northwest side of Sector 3, right here behind Academy and CC's Pizza area.
How big is Sector 3?
It's one of the bigger sectors. It covers a lot of area. I don't know the square miles here, but it is a big area for him to cover. That much area. It blew me away afterwards to realize how long we had actually been chasing. You can see right here he's coming up on Olive Garden area and passes it, and I don't know what he's doing. You see him swerving left and right. It's like he was trying to figure out, what am I going to do next. He honestly had no game plan at this point. He couldn't get away. He didn't have nowhere to go. The one thing this vehicle has that I didn't have was the clearance, the ground clearance. There's that open field just to the northeast of the old Circuit City. He decides to go through it, and I'm going to follow him, and it doesn't take long for me to realize, I'm going to end up destroying all this property here on this vehicle, and I radio to my units that are with me to get back because they're all following me. Get back on the access road, and we'll go back around. He's going to show up on Amistad, and that's a kind of a little nook area that's usually pretty quiet. There's not a quick way in and out, and I knew that if we'd have gotten back on this access road, we could catch him.
How did your knowledge of your sector come into play during this chase?
Oh my goodness, it made all the difference in the world. If I'd have been in this chase whenever I first started and didn't have the sense of awareness in this sector, I would have been completely lost. I wouldn't have gotten back up as fast as I did. A whole lot of things could have happened. He could have taken off running, and I wouldn't have known where to set up a perimeter. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. I'd put quite a few years in Sector 3 and have a pretty good sense of awareness whenever it comes to here and direction, because you can see I'm turning straight down that area, getting back there. We turned on Glenna, headed back towards Amistad, and basically you have to go down this road, and the only way on Amistad is from the south side, so we're having to head back down to the south and do a U-turn back up on Amistad. And you can see there's so many officers now, lake units, everybody wanting to help out. At this point, I had been told there was lake units already on that patch of earth over there that we couldn't take our cars on. They have the big trucks, and they had that west end completely hemmed up. There was no way you could go back to the west. And then you can see we're here on the east. So all we've got to do is find him. He's in this area.
Okay, so at this point, all officers have completely lost visual, but he's in this area.
Right. Yeah, we lost visual, and you can see it didn't take long. This is Amistad, and I'm headed back on the north end. And I'm checking the ground because I know he's probably going to bail on foot. So I'm looking around, checking on the streets. I don't know if he's armed. I don't want him to. I pull up and him shoot me sitting in my seat or something like that. So I'm driving, kind of slowing down, not seeing the car. There's little alleyways. I'm looking in the alleyways, and you can see I kind of pull up here on the right side. I'm like, is that it? And it was almost like it didn't make sense. And I was like, yep, that's it. And I radio, I've got the car here, and I step out of the vehicle, and the car's just to the left out of frame. Moments later, there was a gentleman that assisted there on scene. I don't want to say too much about it, but there was a gentleman there that witnessed part of it, and he advised us that there was a male and female in the back area behind a couple residences over here. So you can see I'm being pretty cautious going way around that vehicle, getting the plate out, confirming that the plate's the right plate, and making sure no one's still in that vehicle. He was about 30 yards from that vehicle. He had no business being in this area. Later on, we learned that he was borrowing that vehicle from some friends, and we ended up finding some drugs in the vehicle as well. They tried to walk away in the alley. As soon as they saw some officers, they just walked in the alley. And actually, the drugs were found a foot and a half away from where he was taken into custody in the back alleyway. And this ended up being him, Mr. Trammell, who has a history of methamphetamine narcotics abuse. He didn't want to talk about the methamphetamine. He didn't want to talk about the chase. He said that wasn't him in the car. So as far as that goes, any of the crimes, no, he wasn't cooperative. He didn't fight us or resist or anything, but he didn't want to own up to any of the things he had just done. If there are any bad guys listening, you don't take any of this advice from these bad guys and just pull over if you're thinking about running.